Welcome, fellow YouTubers, to the PandA Law Firm YouTube channel. My name is Judah Z, founding partner, PandA Law. The mission of this channel, as always, is to provide some general legal knowledge and perhaps to answer some questions or issues that the public may have out there. Today, we're going to be talking about bankruptcy myths, and we're busting them. So you know what's true, what's not true. Like everything in the law, it kind of intersects. So we'll be talking about bankruptcy today, but that may affect credit ratings, that may affect your ability to buy a home, things of this nature. Understand that, like a lot of things in the law, different topics will intersect with other topics. If you have specific questions, please contact us at PandA Law or contact other consumer attorneys in your state that may be able to help. What I'll be talking about today as a Nevada attorney will often be specific things about Nevada. Now, some of the things in Nevada are similar to other states, some aren't, but please contact an attorney in your state that may be able to help. One of the first things we're going to be talking about is just understanding what bankruptcy is. For consumers, that really means two types of bankruptcies. Chapter 7, often referred to as a fresh start bankruptcy, and then there's bankruptcy Chapter 13s, which are often referred to as a reorganization or a restructuring. Bankruptcy Chapter 7s often will get rid of all unsecured debt, just get rid of it. In a Chapter 13, you're going to pay back whatever you can afford for a maximum of 5 years or until all the debt's repaid, whatever happens first. So that's just kind of a brief general overview. The purpose of the bankruptcy is to help you get out of debt, but also what most people don't think of is it can help repair your credit. So we get you out of the debt, and then that credit repair will come naturally after that. It can be even done expeditiously with credit rebuild programs that some law firms have, like PandA. We have a proprietary credit rebuild program that gets people back on their feet very, very quickly. If you like what you've heard so far, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. If you have questions, you can also put them in the comment. If there are private questions that you wouldn't like to share with others, please email us at questions@pandalawfirm.com, and we'll do our best to answer those quickly. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into the meat of the video today. Top 5 bankruptcy myths. Myth number 5, that you're going to lose everything in the bankruptcy. Not true. 95% of people don't lose anything. There's exemptions, protections in every state, and they vary from state to state, right? They're not all the same. But these exemptions protect vehicles, primary residences, business assets, money in the bank, sometimes also your retirement, sometimes also inheritance, things of that nature, but it varies state by state. So understand that 9 times out of 10, you're not going to lose anything in a bankruptcy. Myth number 4, that all debts get wiped out in a bankruptcy. Not true. Normally what we're talking about is unsecured debts like credit card debt, medical debt, personal loans, payday loans, broken leases, things like that. What normally will not get wiped out in a bankruptcy is criminal restitution, child support that you may owe, alimony that you may owe, sometimes taxes that you may owe, debt that is tied to real property. Now, you'll get rid of your personal liability on that debt, but it will not get rid of the lien on the home, the lien on the car. These are all things that will not get wiped out in a bankruptcy. Also, one other that most people probably understand is student loans. Now, this law is evolving, but 99% of the time, student loans won't get wiped out in a bankruptcy unless you have a mini trial, but that's the subject for another video. Myth number 3, that your credit is ruined for life. Not true. Now let's give the bad part first. In a bankruptcy Chapter 7, the fresh start bankruptcy, that bankruptcy is going to stay in your credit report for 10 years. For a Chapter 13, it's going to be on the credit report for 7 years from the date of filing. But the bankruptcy is not going to negatively impact your credit score for 7 to 10 years. No, not if it's done right. So for instance, at PandA Law, in a Chapter 7 that normally takes 3 to 4 months, within 6 months after that, follow our directions, and we'll have you back up to around a 650 to 680 FICO score. You'll get credit card offers, you'll get car loans within that first 6-month period. Within 2 years after the bankruptcy, most of our clients are back up to a 750 to 800 FICO, and you can even qualify for an FHA home loan 2 years after a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. That's astounding. Now, in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, the reorganization repayment plan, after making 1 year of on-time payments, you can even qualify for an FHA home loan. So 1 year after filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, make on-time payments for 12 months, you can get court approval, if everything else looks right, and qualify for a home loan at that point. That's exciting stuff. So in myth number 3, we talked about how we can rebuild the credit. Myth number 2 kind of ties into that, and it's that you can never buy a house or a car again after the bankruptcy. Well, that's not true. If you stay up on your credit, right, you pay your debts on time, you don't overspend, things like that, you got to stay prudent with them and persistent. But if you do that, then the credit repair will work and you'll get back on your feet relatively quickly, like we just talked about in the last section. But you got to stay on it, because if you slip again, it's going to hurt even worse. But understand, like we had talked about prior to, within 6 months after the Chapter 7 discharge, you can qualify for a car loan. Within 2 years after the Chapter 7, you can qualify for an FHA home loan if you are careful and patient and prudent about rebuilding your credit. All that can happen. And if you have good guidance, which is what you're going to get at PandA Law Firm and other reputable law firms that do this kind of work. Myth number 1 about bankruptcy: that somehow you were irresponsible, that you acted shamefully, that you did something wrong, and that's why you're having to file a bankruptcy. Look, guys, there's nothing further from the truth. That's just not what it is. How our economy is set up is it's meant to drive people into debt. That's how the banks make money. Understand that most people are set up to fail. I've been doing this work for about 15 years, and 99% of people that walk into my office want to make enough money to pay their debt. They don't want to be in there to see me. The hardest part about this whole process is them coming in to see me and us talking about this, because they feel shame. But you shouldn't, because that's how the system is set up. It's set up, like I said, to get you into debt. Now, there's a lot of things that happen that cause people to get into debt that also has nothing to do with you, right? For instance, what did we just experience? The pandemic. Man, my doors are packed right now. My office is packed because a lot of people are now still trying to recover from the pandemic, and it's biting them now. Well, I didn't have anything to do with the pandemic. You didn't either. Not your fault, but can force you into bankruptcy. About 30% of the bankruptcies, and it's probably growing, are caused by medical debt. Well, who chooses to be sick? Nobody, right? We get sick, we don't have enough insurance, and the insurance isn't good enough to help us, and we come out of the hospital with, tens of thousands of dollars in debt, right? You thought you wanted to go to a 5-star hotel and that was expensive. Try going to the emergency room for a night, that's $5,000. Who has the money to pay for that? So oftentimes, not your fault there. Third reason, maybe job loss, right? You got canned, your hours got reduced, your income got reduced. Now you can't afford to pay your bills. Sometimes people co-sign, right? Debts for other people, right? No good deed goes unpunished. Have you ever heard that? Well, you co-sign for a friend or a family member on their car. They don't pay it. It gets repoed. Well, they're going to come after you as the co-signer. All these things not your fault, but can force you into a bankruptcy. So just because you're in here talking to a bankruptcy lawyer doesn't mean it's your fault, doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you're not going to be a success in the future. So let's talk about other notable people who have filed a bankruptcy. Ever heard of Abraham Lincoln? Great president. Ever heard of Walt Disney? Henry Ford? All these people filed personal bankruptcies. And what it allowed them to do was to get a fresh start, get rid of these mistakes that they made, that they learned from, right? They were lessons, and then get rid of the debt so then they can become powerful members of society that can help all of us, help the world. So I want you to understand that sometimes you have to take one step back to take 2 steps forward. It's not because you're a bad person. It's not because, that you did something wrong. I know a lot of us come from the generation where our parents told us you can't ever file a bankruptcy. That's old school. You gotta do what you need to do now. It's a federal right for you to file a bankruptcy. It's a tool that you need to use in your toolbox when it's time for that to be implemented. So don't think that you can't use it. Don't think that you have to take the hard way out. No, get rid of the debt, reset, and then you can rebuild and still contribute to society in a meaningful manner. So we talked about 5 myths with bankruptcy. Let's talk about 3 truths with bankruptcy. Number 1, it can protect you, right? If you got sued, bankruptcy can stop that lawsuit. It can get you out of debt. Stop harassing phone calls. All these things, bankruptcy can do that. It can protect your home from foreclosure. It can protect your car from repossession. These are powerful things. These are assets that you've built. Let's not lose them because we don't want to file a bankruptcy. Number 3, it can help you become a better member of society. We talked about Henry Ford, right? Filed a bankruptcy. Without him filing a bankruptcy before he started Ford Motor Company, there would be no Ford, guys. No Ford if Henry Ford didn't file bankruptcy. Same with Hershey. Hershey filed a bankruptcy. If he hadn't, You're not eating the sweet chocolate, enjoying that you are nowadays. Okay, so understand that there are wildly contributing members to society that have filed a bankruptcy and it's benefited all of us, right? You can do the same, and sometimes you should. So I bring up Henry Ford, I bring up Hershey, I bring up Abraham Lincoln, so you understand that you're not alone. I probably file at least 50 bankruptcies a month. Not everyone, but a lot of people are doing this when they need to, when it's the right thing to do. People don't talk about it, but people are doing it. It's kind of like sometimes when you hear about people who gamble, right? They never hear about the losses. You never hear about the losses. You only hear about the wins. So people often sometimes, well, I would say not often, but sometimes consider bankruptcy a loss, so they don't want to talk about it. They feel ashamed. It doesn't mean people aren't doing it. They are. That's why we're in business. So if you watch this video long enough and you're starting to get over the shame of bankruptcy and you're thinking, well, maybe I should consider this. Okay, well, how do we make an informed decision about whether you should even consider a bankruptcy? Well, number one, there's red flags. If you're living check to check, right, that's a red flag, especially if you have a lot of unsecured debt. If you're pulling upon your retirement or your savings to pay unsecured debt, if you're behind on your car payments or your home payment, these are all red flags why you should consider filing a bankruptcy. Now, you should definitely talk to a lawyer about this, right? There's good information on Google, as we've talked about, but sometimes there's misinformation on Google that can lead you astray. So please go talk to a qualified attorney in your state if you're considering a bankruptcy. Also, you want to talk to a lawyer if possible, and this is a rarity, but you want to talk to a lawyer that doesn't just do bankruptcy, but talks to you about all debt relief options. So for instance, at PandA, we do bankruptcy, but we also do debt settlement, which is an alternative outside of bankruptcy. And I'll also talk to our clients about debt consolidation, something we don't even do. It's important for me to do that because I act as a fiduciary, which means I have to put your interest before my own, which means I got to talk to you about stuff even that I don't do. Here's the concern. If you go to a bankruptcy law firm and they don't practice debt settlement, they're not going to talk to you about that option of debt settlement, which might be the better way to go. If you talk to a debt settlement company that often use the word law, even though they're not lawyers, right? They're not going to talk to you about bankruptcy because they don't offer that. They don't sell that. So you want to go to someone who's going to talk to you about all your options so you can make the best decision for you and your particular circumstance. That's why we offer all things at PandA Law Firm. Okay, so let's recap a couple things. We talked about what bankruptcy is, 7s versus 13s. We've talked about these 5 myths that often shame people or scare people in not wanting to file bankruptcy. They're bogus. We talked about the benefits of bankruptcy and how it can help you, but also that you need to get and look into other options when you talk to a professional about these things, right? So these are all things we talked about and why you should consider bankruptcy if in fact you have some of these red flags that we talked about prior to. If you liked what you've seen today, please like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to have you listening to our videos every week. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.